Hello, thank you for checking out my channel. My name is Brian Lee. Today, I'm going to explain the project that Jaehoon and I have been working on for the last 2 months. We built an AI finance dashboard. The goal of this project is to help users manage their finances in a more intuitive and efficient way. The application visualizes spending pattern and also provide financial insight through AI-powered transaction history analysis. I will talk more about the features we added later during the demo section, so please stay until then. Now let me briefly talk about the technologies we used for the front-end, back-end, database, and AI integration. For the front end, we mainly use JavaScript with React and style the application using CSS. For the backend, we use Java with Spring Boot. For the database, we use MySQL. And for AI integration, we use the Gemini 3.5 Flash API. However, since the AI integration is handled through an API, we can easily switch to different model in the future if needed. Now let me demonstrate how to run the program. First, we need to start the backend server by navigating to the backend directory. So open the terminal, go to backend directory. Then we add the AI API key that we are going to use, which is Gemini for this project. So after that, we run npm spring boot run. All right, as we can see, the backend server is now running, connected to the database, and the API is ready to use. Next, so we need another terminal. So open a new terminal and navigate to the front-end directory. But if npm is not installed, install it first. Otherwise, simply just run npm run. All right. Now the front end is running on localhost. So we simply just copy and paste the localhost address and paste it into the browser and just press enter. All right, as you can see, the program is now running. The program starts with the login page, but to save time, I will use an existing account instead of creating a new one. So there's a demo account here. Let me copy this, paste to here, password here. We can also sign up, or we can create it from the scratch, but we're gonna use the demo account for this time. Okay, all right, this is the program. Okay, then let me explain the dashboard from top to bottom. At the very top, we display the user information and a real-time clock right next to it. And there is also a blue button for adding transaction. Below that, we have three summary cards. So total income, total expense, and net profit. If you hover over these cars, they slightly lift up. This is a simple animation implemented using JavaScript to improve the user experience. In the middle section here, we have spending diagram that helps user visualize expenses by category. And below that is the recent transaction section, which displays all transactions, and every new transaction is stored and assigned a unique ID. So at the bottom, we have a budget status indicator here. It uses a simple calculation based on income and expenses. So if the remaining budget ratio is above 75%, the status is shown as great. If it's between 25 and 75%, the status is shown as good. If it falls below 25%, a red warning status is displayed. And finally, we have the Get AI Insights feature, which is the highlight of the project. Users can receive AI-generated financial insights based on their transaction history. So, right, for this demo, I'll add 2 transactions. Please remember those recent transactions. Let me add the transaction. So category, let, let me say salary, and name, bonus, everyone's bonus. And amount, I'm gonna put 3,000. And for the date, let me just type today's date, June 19, 2026, and add transaction. So bonus is here. As you can see, bonus is added to the recent transaction. And also, total income is added as well. And the net profit also changed. Let me add another one. This one, I'll do housing and name it housing. No, housing and let me switch this one. Housing and change to living cost. And I'll put as much, and I'm gonna also put the same date for this date section and add transaction. Oh, shit. Oh, I accidentally add the housing to the plus. So let me add another one. Living expense name, housing fee, and expense. It's minus, and then the same date for this. Ah, now it's showing us the expense category here. So as you can see, so there's a living expense, which is the biggest pie here. And you can see the minus, I mean, negative like $1,340. And as you can, living expense, today's date, and housing fee. All right. So after adding the transaction, both the spending diagram and summary cards update automatically. These components were not generated automatically. They were implemented through React components in the front-end section of the project. Right? Now let's move on to the AI Insight feature. So we have here we have the button here, and let me click it. Now, we have four predefined questions available. So let me choose two of them. First, let's ask, where am I spending the most money? If I click this, it's gonna loading inside. Let's wait for a second. Boom. Your largest individual expense is the housing fee of 1,340, which is that I just added, right? Okay. And now let's ask about the spending habits. What spending habits do you notice? Your transaction shows highly disciplined financial habits as your total income significantly exceeds your expense. Oh, which is good thing. Hmm. The AI analyzes the transaction data and generate a personalized response. Right, good. That concludes the demo section. Now let's move on to a brief code review. Let's look at the front end. Most of the front end code is located under the source directory and under the components. Those are all the components that we just checked from the project. So for example, in the transaction components, like this. So as you can see, each transaction contains information such as ID, category, date, name, and amount. Right? I mean, all the components have its JavaScript with React, and also the CSS for decorating, which is cool. And now let's move to the backend. So if you go to the backend, I will focus on the most important section, the AI module and the transaction module. The Spring Boot architecture follows a standard flow. So it's starting from controller and to the service, and service to repository, and repository to database. So from controller, so request mapping, controller, transition controller to service, and service to repository, and from repository to the database. So when data is requested, the process moves down through these layers. When data is returned, the process moves back up to the front end. So now you might wonder how the front end and back end communicate with each other. So to simplify the maintenance, we centralize API communication through a single file. Let's check that out. So services, boom. The API.js file acts as a bridge between the front end and back end. So the file contains the backend API URLs and handles all requests. Now let's talk about the AI feature. When the user clicks the Get AI Insight button, React opens the AI Insight model. So components, budget, just this one. So if the user clicks a question such as where am I spending the most money, the front end sends a post request to the AI endpoint The AI controller receives the request and passes it to the Gemini service. The Gemini service retrieves transaction data from MySQL through the transaction repository. The flows look like this: Gemini service to transaction repository and to MySQL. After retrieving the transaction data, the service built a prompt similar to how we interact with ChatGPT or Gemini. Spring Boot then sends this prompt to the Gemini API. Gemini analyzes the transaction history and returns a personalized response to the user. Let me briefly show database from MySQL. Uh, from a new terminal. A new terminal here. Start MySQL by typing root services start MySQL. Oh, MySQL already started. So, and if MySQL is not installed, you need to install it first, and then type MySQL root. Okay, this means MySQL has started, and then we type use finance dashboard. Okay, database changed, and then type show table. Okay, we can see two tables, transactions and users. Let me go into more detail on the transaction table. So select from transactions. Okay, cool. As you can see, all the transactions shown in the recent transaction section are also shown in the MySQL server as well. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges we faced was integrating the Gemini model into the project. Initially, we had difficulty like connecting to the Gemini API at all. After like investigating and debugging the issue, we discovered that the problem was related to the model we selected. We originally chose Gemini 2.5 Flash because we believed it would use fewer tokens and be more cost efficient, and it would be easier to connect. However, we constantly encounter connection and compatibility issue. So after we switching to Gemini 3.5 Flash, the integration worked immediately. Another challenge was that the AI initially generated generic responses instead of analyzing transaction data stored in MySQL. To serve this issue, we modified the backend flow so that transaction data would first be retrieved from MySQL, converted into a prompt, and then sent to Gemini. This allowed the AI to generate personalized financial insights based on actual user transaction history rather than providing generic advice. Okay, this is all for this project. Thank you for checking out.